There have been worrying developments in South Africa over the past few years that I think we need to start talking about. These include people killed and fed to pigs. They include a child being driven over because he allegedly stole an orange. What about a senior politician in the government of national unity employing a well-known racist as his chief of staff? The government has been spending money on events to celebrate the miracle of 1994 when we supposedly became a rainbow nation. But do the families of Locadia, Ndlovu and Makgatho feel like they live in a rainbow nation? And where are the protests by white compatriots who have on occasion blocked the roads to protest farm killings? Is AfriForum out there baying for the blood of the heartless killers? After all, this is a classic case of a farm murder. Hello everyone, welcome back to Joe Talks Politics. I am your host, Joseph Musia. In this episode, I look at the scourge of racism and how it continues despite our pretense that we are all on board the nation-building train. Let's get right into it. I was initially tempted to ask if the farmer in Limpopo who killed 2 black women for picking up expired food would have done the same had the women been white. However, that question is silly because it is not based on a lived reality. White women in South Africa would never find themselves in that situation. White people do not go around picking up expired food. For thousands of black people, however, that is how they survive. What about the Lutzville farmer who ran over a 6-year-old boy for allegedly stealing oranges? Stealing oranges. That was his alleged crime. Lest you start thinking this is the preserve of untransformed farmers who are often regarded as the face of racism. What about a university student who, in an apparent drunken stupor, targets a fellow student for the ultimate humiliation? When you urinate on someone or their property, what you say in effect is, "I do not recognize your humanity. You are nothing to me. You have the same status as a toilet." He is at an institution of higher learning. He's supposed to be enlightened. And his defenders have sought to explain that he was drunk. Yet, in his drunkenness, he was still discerning enough to find a black person to humiliate. So what is the point of all this? Why am I getting my knickers in a knot over what some would call an aberration? That is exactly the point. Racism is not the preserve of a backward few. It is a lived reality for millions of South Africans 30 years into our so-called democratic breakthrough. To behave like ostriches and hope that by the time we raise our heads the problem will have disappeared is not going to help us. And failure to acknowledge and tackle racism will have disastrous consequences for all of us in the long term. The irony of racism, though, is that no one else but white people in South Africa can do something about it. Black people can complain, protest, and litigate all they want. Unfortunately, racism is not only about your behavior. It is also about who and what you are. Racism will end when white people begin to see the humanity of their black compatriots. When they start seeking to understand what it feels like to be black and excluded. It will end when whites stop lecturing blacks about what it feels like to live on the margins and watch others continue reaping the benefits of our so-called political miracle. One of the most common refrains nowadays is, "Stop blaming apartheid. You have had 30 years to change things." In truth, though, whites and their political parties have spent 30 years resisting all measures aimed at empowering blacks. They have stood up in parliament and vowed to fight measures like affirmative action and black economic empowerment. It is reverse racism, they argued. They also argue that everyone should be appointed on merit. They conveniently forget that blacks were rendered second-class citizens by affirmative action policies for whites that specifically stated blacks could not occupy certain positions. It was the law that we could not live in cities unless we could prove that we were there as laborers. We could not attend certain schools or universities. We were not allowed on certain coaches on the train and had to use separate doors to enter public facilities like the post office. Black people have generally embraced the need to move on and not to be bogged down by the injustices of the past. However, incidents like the ones I've stated above make some people, especially the youth, restless. They are beginning to ask why they should stretch a hand of friendship when it is not being received on the other end. South Africa has so much potential. We can achieve the unthinkable when we put our collective minds to it. But no one group can do it alone. It is only when we work together and recognize each other's humanity that we can reach our full potential. Black South Africans are not asking you to do anything for them except to recognize them as full human beings with strengths, weaknesses, faults, and talents. They don't want to be talked down to or to be treated as charity cases. And please explain this. Why do you feed human beings to pigs? Why do you feed them to lions? Why do you urinate on them? Why do you drive over a 6-year-old? Where is your humanity? And where is human solidarity? Where do you derive your sense of entitlement from? I am quite aware that thousands of my white compatriots frown upon the injustice of racism. Many have left the comfort and privilege of being white and sacrificed their lives in the process. There are many more who, in their private lives, treat fellow citizens like any other human being. They never speak about it, nor do they wear it as a badge of honor. So what's wrong with the others? If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and share it. See you in the next one.